Welcome back. Fresh class, rhubarb yoga again. Today we're going to be looking at Vrikshasana, the tree pose. Now, when people look at anyone conducting the tree pose, it can look quite simple. It can look like standing on one foot with one foot tucked against the other, and maybe your hands are in Anjali Mudra, or you might have your hands above. However, with tree pose, Vrikshasana, there are several factors that we need to remember. And there's a reason behind it. So tree pose, when we look at trees outside in nature, they are rigid, tall, majestic, and they bend with the weather and the environment around them. So whether there is a storm that is blowing at 74 miles an hour, or it is a bright, vivid, sunny day, they absorb everything around them and they stand firm. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to be absorbing everything around us, and we're going to continue to stand firm. And that in itself is not a bad lesson for us to maybe take in and hold on to, particularly when it is tumultuous and it is unstabling and we don't feel grounded at all. So our ability to stand firm and absorb our environment and still be grounded is something that hopefully we can apply when we need it. And as you can see, we've got a pretty big prop. So we're going to need a block if we want to, but a chair is going to be an ideal demonstration to give you a bit of confidence, as balance is key. And we all feel unbalanced at times, whether it can be a massive corona pandemic, or it can be stress from homeschooling, or having to work from home, or being furloughed, or just things aren't quite okay at the moment. We all have a moment of a destability and an unbalanced point in our lives. And to try and readjust that, to de-junk all of that and come back to the beginning is key. So let's look at what we need to do. So we're going to look at the chair version first. And this we can use, or a wall. This will give us confidence and comfortability in the pose as we're trying to find a familiarity of knowing what we're doing. But what we also need to bear in mind as well is that with tree pose, we're going to do an external rotation of our hips and our knee. And with that, we need to be careful. If we have a tricky knee, please use a block to protect it. And please don't try and wedge your foot high up on the inner thigh. Place it somewhere comfortable, careful, and appropriate. Okay, so placing our blocks to the side, we're going to look at our chair. So we need the back of the chair to come to the side that we will not need to be standing tall. So we're going to be standing tall on this leg. So the one thing we need to ensure that we are doing is externally rotating in the right way. And this is where we may need our block. So we want our chair where our hand can rest about hip height. We don't need it up here. We want everything to be in a line of contact that is almost like our body. So placing a hand around hip height, and that's why the wall might be an ideal alternative just in case. So what I want you to do is to look at the feet you have, and I want you to open them up. So lift the toes off the ground, spread each one and put them back down. Suddenly be in contact with that ground once again. Be aware of that floor once again. And just suddenly recognise what's actually underneath your feet at the moment. So once we've done that, this is the leg we're going to externally rotate. This is the leg that is going to be bent and attached to the inner thigh. So this leg, we don't need to pay too much attention to at the moment. It will be doing a lot of work as you remove equipment, as you become independent. However, this is the leg that we need to concentrate on our actions first, so we can find our focus and our balance, and we can then find stability. So what I want you to do is feet are hip width apart, and I want you to turn this leg out. Come up on the tiptoes, and you will come up on the tiptoe to begin with, and then turn. We're not moving this hip, it is this leg that is externally rotating out. Now that might feel weird, you may not be used to that, or it might be something that you don't even know that you can do. So keeping our hand on the chair, we're going to externally rotate outwards. Now we have a band called the iliotibial band that runs from our hip to our knee, and that gives us this mobility of flexion and rotation. So that's the thing we need to be careful about. If you suffer from hip pain, please be careful. And with this, if we're going to go into tree, we might bring our foot to our ankle. And that's as far as we're going to go. And that is perfectly okay, because we've actioned that external rotation. And we may not need the chair for this balance, and we may be just right, just here, hands to heart in Anjali Mudra. This leg is grounded, it has found its foundation. We are strong through this leg, and this leg is seeking the balance, so we can be balanced. Or our hand comes back. And we may need to put our hand onto our calf. And if we can't feel that that is comfortable enough, this is where our block comes in. We can place our block next to our external foot. It can be on tiptoes. We can feel that we're next to our calf and the foot is that high. And that's perfectly okay. And that might be what we need. We've externally rotated, and we need to ensure that as we've done that, our pelvis isn't following that way. Our hips are facing that way. And that's the key thing here. The rotation of the leg and the hip bones are facing forward. And this is where your chair might be more key for you, to make sure you're keeping that pelvis facing forward. So we have the external rotation, we have the toes on the block, and we have the foot by the calf. And that might be enough for you. But if you want to be more curious, let's have a look at the next option. So the next option would be to move the foot higher. And it can come above the knee. It never goes on the joint of the knee. If we did that, we would be applying internal pressure externally in a force, which would do nothing but dislocate our kneecap, and nobody wants that. So, foot on the calf, or foot on the internal thigh. Now this is where you get to a point where you think, I need a bit of help. Use your chair for balance, and hold on to your foot, and bring it to the internal thigh. And if that's it for you, that is it for you. If you feel that you need to hold that to find balance, then work on that. The one action here that can help you is the activation of the internal thigh, pushing against the sole of the foot. When they come together, they create a bond. And that is the action of the stability and foundation rising up through the shape, keeping our external rotation. So, holding onto our chair, if that worked for you and you were quite curious and it felt comfortable, stick with it. The right type of trousers is always key. Your feet may feel good, your trousers may stop your legs finding that bond. So remember that next time. A bare leg works wonders. However, slippy trousers, not with every pose. So find your point of the internal rotation of the foot and bring it to the point where you are thinking, I am okay here. You can bring it all the way up to the internal groin, and that is the peak of the pose with the foot. However, I want you to use your common sense if this is unfamiliar. Stick with the calf if that's okay for you today. We're not looking at the finishing line, we're looking at the journey to get there. So we have got our external rotation, our foot in contact with our grounded leg, our pelvis is facing forward, and what we need to do now is find balance. And balance can come in many forms. It can come from a calm mind, a picture, a pattern of breath, or a drishti, a point of focus. Now our drishtis can be external or internal. We can look toward the tip of the nose, towards the third eye, the ajna, or we can look to a point on the floor without actually changing the angle of the head. So we can look directly to where our eyes naturally fall, or Or maybe we've got a candle lit in the room as we practice, and the flame helps us concentrate without creaking our neck and cranking our position. So find your point of focus. And if you feel steady, the hand can be on the chair. If you want to try, you can bring one hand to your heart, followed by the other. The hands can stay on the waist if that is better for you. Some people feel far more grounded. But place your hands where you're comfortable. And now find your grounding and your stability. And allow yourself to breathe. And when you've discovered that, we'll change to the other side. So again, we apply exactly the same thing to the other side of the body too. We apply all these principles to working against a wall as well. And you will discover, particularly when doing balancing poses, the strength of one side is different to the strength of another. One leg of mine is definitely stronger than the other, one hand is more prone to the other, and that can depend on our right or left-handedness, and our left or right propensity in moving and the way we choose to do things. But don't let that put you off. You may be surprised. So again, we're going to repeat it. We're going to look at how we ground our feet, so spread our toes, discover the mat again. Hands on hips to feel that external rotation, onto tiptoe, and then turn that foot. You will then know that the pelvis and the legs are separate because those pelvic bones are still facing forward, and yet your thigh and knee is now open at the side. And now think about where again you're going to place your foot. If you place it in one particular side, please repeat that on the other to create equilibrium and balance in the body. If you want to go to the next stage up, try it with one side and then go to the next side. By doing that, we ensure that we are not causing any injury or discomfort from one side compared to another as well. We keep maintaining that balance, which is really important. So looking down, we can go for the calf. Using the block again, we can stay at the ankle. We can rise up, we can bring it up into the mid-thigh or to the inner groin. Now find your place. Whenever they're ready, if the foot and the thigh are in contact this time, and that's your place of choice, engage them together. Squeeze them. Not tight, but just bring them together so they can discover each other underneath. And then find where you're happy with your hands on your drishti. Waist, absolutely fine. On the heart. You can even go something a little bit different when your balance is ready. So with Vrikshasana, I hope you find a little solitude, a little focus, and it gives you some balance and stability when other things around you might be blowing in a 10-foot gale or trying to pull up your roots and totally move you around. Please have fun. Please discover something new today.